Hello, everybody, and welcome back for the second segment of the December 1st Trips and Traps. Once again, Andy Serling and Eric Donovan.
3 more races to bring you, and we'll take a look at a couple of races from the Holiday Fest Saturday card, including the two-year-old stakes. And we'll start off with the Demoiselle, a horse that got some headlines for stumbling at the start and enduring a fairly eventful trip, and that's the 8 Disposable Pleasure.
Yeah, nobody is going to deny that Disposable Pleasure was clearly the best horse in this race, and you've seen this before, but you'll see it again as she stumbles very badly. Grabbed a quarter, cut herself a little bit. She was okay. But I think there's a couple of things to discuss. Number one, as we're going to show, she's involved in an incident where there was an inquiry. They left her up, but they suspended Ramon Dominguez. And another thing I want to ask about, this was a very fast pace. If you talk about it as we roll, and we'll show you now the pan of this race, and you'll see her breaking slowly again. The pace of this race was Ramon. Well, he does a remarkable job. I mean, you can see him almost falling off this horse, literally coming out of the saddle. But the pace of this race was 48 and 1.5. The Remsen goes 49 and 4. They went 113 and 2 in this race, or 3, versus 115 in the Remsen. Now, Disposable Pleasure, she's a speed horse if she doesn't get left like that. What happens if she's in the teeth of the pace battle, Eric?
It's an interesting question, something interesting to debate here, because, where would she be right now? Would she be sitting second? Would she be stuck in that group of 4 horses right behind the leader? Would she be sitting off those? You just don't know. And, one thing you can say about Disposable Pleasure, though, she was kind of taken out of her game from the start in here, but how much of this pace dynamic with this quick pace actually helps her to be where she is now? Right.
It's all good discussions, and it's also sort of a way to sort of understand what happened here. And you can't have the answers because there's no alternative universe or alternate universe where we know what happens if she didn't get left. Having said that, look, we know she was the best horse in the race. Nobody is denying that. But having said that, the best horse sometimes loses even without getting in early trouble because the dynamics work against them. And it would be interesting to see how this race would have played out if she hadn't stumbled coming out of the gate.
I agree. And they come down to the half-mile pole here, and she's starting to make a move toward the inside. And right in front of her is the 5 Bourbon Street Girl, another horse we're a little bit interested in this spot here just because of what happens here with Disposable Pleasure. Going to make a move to the outside.
Right. Watching right now, you see them bearing out, and you can see it in the pan. Look, she goes from the inside all the way out to about the 5 path, carries Bourbon Street Gal out, but then she ends up in the same jackpot because she ends up falling back behind horses. And I'll tell you something, I think it was a rare situation where Ramon was a little unsettled.
It may have been a little panicky. Maybe the horse just kind of took off a little bit more on him than he thought that she would. That's a possibility, too, I think, here. But gets in behind horses here. And, Bourbon Street Girl's kind of committed to that 5-wide move at this point here. And there was an objection lodged in this race against Disposable Pleasure. It was not allowed. And you'll see the seized part here, Disposable Pleasure able to come on through between horses. Looks like she's going to kind of draw off a little bit here. But the 4 Wildcat Smile, the eventual runner-up here, pretty game, gives her everything she can. As you said, there's no doubt Disposable Pleasure was best in here, overcoming the stumble at the start and grabbing a quarter in the race. But how much of this, how good is this race for her? She earned a figure in the mid-70s. Is she a better horse than that? Is she the same horse that the race shows on final time and figures?
Yeah, I don't think she's that good. It was a low 70s. She doesn't have that problem at the start. Even if she wins, she runs in the high 70s. She's got a long way to go to get to the top fillies in the country. And it's a race where I think she's going to be overrated because of the trouble. I don't want Bourbon Street Girl. I think she took advantage of circumstance with the fast pace. She's more of a turf horse anyway. I'm not trying to knock Disposable Pleasure, but I think that people are going to be a little more excited about her because of the stumble at the start than maybe they should be going forward.
I'll take a look at the boys' race now. The Remsen also going 1 mile and 1/8 around 2 turns. A much different dynamic from the Remsen, from the Demoiselle to the Remsen.
It's a very interesting race, and you can talk about a lot of horses in here. And I believe that El Prado, again, who won this race, was the best horse. But things could have played out differently. First of all, El Padrino on the inside, I thought was overcommitted the inside. Done Talking is a victim of the slow pace, but gets a very good ride, saving ground. And Spite City, who broke through the gate before the start of the race, was a horse that never was gotten to a comfortable position or a comfortable rhythm. Now, neither did El Prado again, and he still won the race. But Spite City's a horse that he's hung out 4 wide here. He's always sort of in no man's land. He gets caught between horses. He has a sort of no-chance trip. El Padrino, I thought that John Velasquez overcommitted to the inside with this horse.
Very strong possibilities behind the pace being set right now by Super Speedy and toward the outside, our entourage. And you see El Padrino down toward the inside and moving up toward the outside there as the other horse we're interested in, Spite City. Done Talking toward the back of the pack. And you can see where the winner is, the gray, the 8 horse and kind of the mid-pack there. Going to make a sweet advance on the outside, the Kent DeSormo. And he talked very highly of this horse after the race, talking about his stride. And he does have a fairly economical stride. stride here, gaining ground into the slow pace, kind of nice and easy.
I agree, but I think Kent might have made some reference to Fusaichi Pegasus. Yeah. And I just love these riders. They ride a horse, and like, I think Javier Castellano was saying that Union Rags was the best horse he'd ever ridden in the mornings. The guy rode Ghost Zapper and Bellamy Road. Give me a break. And no disrespect to Union Rags, but I wouldn't want to get carried away. It wasn't a particularly fast race, but I do think from a dynamic standpoint, El Prado again ran well. Here's the situation with Johnny and El Padrino, and you'll see it coming in the stretch where where I think he's hitting him righty and he's sort of staying inside, but once he gets to the outside late is when he really starts running. But he did have a good trip sitting inside off the slow pace, so it's good and bad. Your horse, the 3 Done Talking, still in the back of the pack. Here's the 1. You got that red hat with Spite City, who's just never in a comfortable spot. And part of it may be that he didn't have the oomph to get himself there. Yeah. But I'd still like to see him get a cleaner trip somewhere. Done Talking gets a nice ride weaving through traffic by Alan Garcia. He's just badly victimized by the slow pace. Yeah,
just a little bit too much to do for him. You know, it was a little bit farther back than most of them toward the back of the pack at the top of the stretch. Does come with a nice rally here to, get within about a length of the lead at the finish here. But El Prado again surging to the front at this point. You see El Padrino switched off the rail at this point here. Going to finish up well. Done Talking closing as well. And Super Speedy hanging on as also.
I think that El Padrino is the horse that would have won this race if he had gotten out earlier. He would have done it with a perfect trip. El Prado again, I believe, ran the best race. But there's interesting stuff going on with a number of horses in this race, and a race worth reviewing, because even though these horses are slower than the top dogs in the division, I think there's room for improvement, and there's no reason these horses can't move forward. And I think we'll see some players in the division coming out of a race like this, as well as the 2-year-old stake in Kentucky.
I agree. I mean, it's a mile and an eighth race for 2-year-olds in November, and we saw a bunch of horses finish pretty close together on the wire. Some other horses that weren't there may have had excuses as well. So I think there's some talent in this Rems, and I think we'll hear from some of these horses in stakes races down the road. One more race to go here on Trips and Traps. We'll take a look at Sunday's 7th race now. Horse Ground Force, who is the favorite in here at 6-5, just a peg over 6-5. A different dynamic today from Ground Force than what he's used to.
To be very fair, I think Channing Hill was put between a rock and a hard place riding Ground Force, because as you'll see, you've got almost the entire field going for the lead, and the eventual winner is the horse who's sitting dead last. So here's Ground Force, who is a speed horse, but if he was battling away in the teeth of that pace battle, he was getting absolutely nothing. So even though Channing is relatively unaggressive as a rider, I think in this situation, it wasn't the wrong instinct. I think the mistake was made as they head around the far turn, when instead of giving himself an option to be outside and in the clear and trying to close, Channing overcommits to the inside, and this horse ain't going nowhere on the inside.
No, apparently not. And this is a horse that's run some gutsy efforts against some decent non-winners and won allowance foes. 1 for 13 in 2011, but he's a little bit better than that record indicates. And you see him down there stuck toward the rail.
Well, pivotal point, he's in the 2-path, and he's already sort of eased over, not to interrupt Eric, but I think this was the point when back here, he should have stayed out a little more and given himself an option.
Yeah, I agree. He could have switched to the outside here and made a wide run. Look, maybe he wouldn't have fired at all. You just don't know. But the fact that this horse was down inside and had a couple of horses in front of him, he's used to being up on the pace and fighting it out every step of the way. Just didn't have it today, and we'll see next time out if there's a different pace situation, if he's hustled more from the gate or what.
He's hitting him right-handed, too. It's like he's not even in tune with how the horse needs to get the outside. I understand he wasn't doing any running, but I just don't think the poor horse had an opportunity to do any running. I don't know that he would have either. I'm not trying to be unfair, but I think that the game plan was the right one. The ultimate decision may have hurt any chance the horse had, but you know what? He needs to get to a race where there's less of a pace. That's probably the biggest thing you'll learn from this race.
I agree, and just hope that he's not taking a step backwards, too.
Yeah, I don't know. He's run a couple of mediocre races in the middle of a whole lot of good races, as you pointed out. Once again, we need your help. We can always use your help. Trips and Traps at NYRAinc.com.
Thanks for watching.